Hello class and good morning. My name is Angel Villalobos and today man, we're going to be talking about how the human auditory system works and how it changes as you age. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so whenever you hear any type of sound, whether loud or quiet, what happens is that source, it produces sound waves, and those sound waves, they get caught by your outer ear or pinnae, whatever you want to call it. And it's actually pretty cool when you think about it because, I mean, you just have so many different curves and, I mean, your ear is just designed to hear stuff. I mean, we all know this, right? But it's just fascinating to me how the human body was designed. And of course, your outer ear actually helps you pick up those sounds, like the frequency and the loudness of it and the actual location of it. And then from there, the sounds, they keep traveling through your outer ear and into the auditory canal or ear canal, whatever you want to call it. And they just keep traveling in there. Mind you, this is all still located in the outer ear. And then they hit the eardrum, which is a pretty thin membrane, or if you want to be more specific, the tympanic membrane, which is still located in the outer ear, okay? And the eardrum's job is to translate those sounds into vibrations. Now from here, things get a little more interesting because the sounds, they don't just stop at the outer ear or at the eardrum. They keep traveling into the middle ear, going to these three tiny bones. They're actually the smallest bones in the human body, which is interesting. But they are called the malleus, incus, and stapes, or if you want to be very specific, the hammer, anvil, and the stirrup. But in this video, I'm going to be referring them to as the malleus, incus, and stapes because it sounds cooler. The malleus is actually attached to the eardrum, and from there, so this is how it goes. It's like a ripple effect. The eardrum passes the sounds on to the malleus, and then the malleus passes on to the incus, and then into the stapes. And those three bones are all connected together. But these bones do more than just vibrate. They actually, they amplify the sound waves so that they have more than 20 times the energy they had coming into the ear. That's crazy. And in between the end of the middle ear and the beginning of the outer ear, let me repeat that again. And in between the end of the middle ear and the beginning of the outer ear is the oval window, which is a membrane that moves from the vibrations of the stapes, which actually causes the fluid in the cochlea to move the hair cells, or bend. And many of you might ask, what the hell is a cochlea? Well, the cochlea is a major part of the inner ear, and it's actually like a bony tube, curled-shaped looking thing. It pretty much looks like a snail, and it is also filled with the fluid. And the reason why it spirals is because it functions to increase the sensitivity, mainly at lower volumes. And inside contains 10 to 15,000 of different sized hair cells, which is located in the vascular membrane part. Hair cells are sensory receptors for sound, and they are not equally created the same. Some they're bigger, some they're smaller, some they're made for lower frequencies, some are made for higher frequencies. The smallest hair cells, they're located right beside the oval window, while the biggest hair cells are actually located in the coiled up part of the cochlea. The smallest cells, they are sensitive to the highest frequencies, which is generally speaking anything from 3,000 hertz and up to 20,000 hertz, while the largest hair cells, they're most sensitive to the lowest frequencies, which basically is about like 100 hertz down to 20 hertz. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's generally how it is. The louder the sound, the more hair cells are going to be bending and moving. But when the hair cells move, they transmit sound vibrations into electric impulses, which then gets sent to the brain's auditory cortex via the auditory nerve for processing and interpretation. I mean, you gotta give me some credit. That's like the simplest way of me explaining to you how the auditory system works, and we're gonna dive a little more deeper into it. Now let's talk about how your hearing changes as we age, because Many of us, we take our hearing for granted, whether that be from listening to loud music or hearing sounds that are really loud on a daily basis. I mean, all of this stuff has a detrimental effect on your hearing. Hell, even just aging in itself. Hell, even a buildup of wax can cause your hearing to lessen and lessen more because of the blockage in your ear canal. And luckily, that type of hearing loss can actually be diagnosed because it's usually a result of earwax or infections. And this is actually one of the 3 types of hearing losses. This one is called conductive hearing loss. The next one is called sensory neural hearing loss, which is actually the most common in us adults or older adults. And it's typically caused by damages or changes in the hair cells, or even in the nerves of the cochlea for that matter. Basically, hearing too loud of sounds or aging in itself. There could also be genetic factors, but that's really rare. And I should also mention that this type of hearing loss is not repairable. Like, yeah, you can get hearing aids, but I mean, that's really about it. The third and final type of hearing loss is called mixed hearing loss, which is self-explanatory. Hearing and sound share the same neural balance, and the inner ear hair cells, they help sense both sound and stability. But if you lose hair cells, then your balance is gonna shift really awkwardly, which is gonna result in a less of a clarity in the higher frequencies. That's why if you ever go to a restaurant, then, or anywhere loud for that matter, you're gonna have a hard time hearing the person that's trying to talk to you because of just the loud sounds going on. Like, your ears just can't really register what that other person is saying. And that's why a lot of people might say, "You say what? You say what? You say what?" That being said, let's dive a little bit deeper, okay? So just in case you're still a bit confused on this whole frequencies thing, just know that the average human can hear as low as 20 hertz and up to 20,000 hertz. And I say average because some people are born deaf, some people are born with the need of hearing aids, etc., etc. Now, to dumb it down even a bit more, think of the 2 words highs and treble as the higher frequencies, and of course the mid-range falling into the mids, and the lower frequencies called the lows, or as many people may know of as bass. Now, if you're like me and you like to take care of your hearing, hey, you shouldn't really have much to worry about. But I am human after all. I do like to listen to my music fairly loudly, but I make sure there's a balance in the frequencies. Yo, what's up? I'm in the studio right now, you know what I'm saying? And as the old saying goes, too much of one thing is not good, but I have to admit, too much bass is like the best thing ever. Hey, let me tell you a little secret, alright? It's not so much the lower frequencies that hurt your hearing. It's the higher frequencies, believe it or not. And I see a lot of people in Milwaukee doing this. They'll go into their car and they'll play their music just so loud with no bass. Mind you, no bass. They'll just have the treble and the mids completely maxed out. And I mean, most of these people, they're rocking factory sound systems. So, I mean, it's not that aftermarket stuff where the mids actually sound good. On the factory stuff, I mean, there's not really much bass in them anyway, for most cars. But even then, that aftermarket stuff with the mids and highs are just a little too much if they're maxed out. Because most of these guys, they'll just max out the highs because it's louder, bro. Or they'll just max out the volume on their headphones to the point where you can hear the leakage from damn near a mile away, which is basically asking for hearing damage at that point. And it's crazy how most of our phones, they're completely capable of actually outputting decibel levels of about 120 decibels, which is insane. And combined with a pair of headphones, I mean, that's a deadly combination. And most of these headphones, they don't actually have enough bass to compensate for the highs. So even if you do have a little bit of bass, then the highs are generally going to be overpowering. But I mean, that's why it pays to actually have the knowledge to know what headphones are good. And I mean, these things right here, oh my god, Audio-Technica ATH M50s. This is not a sponsor, but like, dude, these are the best headphones I've ever used in my life. And I mean, the balance is amazing. So it really pays to know how to actually shop for headphones and read the specs of them. And it also pays to know how to use a equalizer. You know, when people hear loud bass or they see big subwoofers, they automatically assume whoever's going to be listening to that, or whoever is listening to that, is going to get massive ear damage. But this simply is not true. Well, it's true to some extent, because being exposed to loud sounds for a long period of time is probably going to mark some damage, but really, there's not much evidence to back up the whole theory that bass is a major culprit in hearing loss. And for that reason, yeah, you need an equal balance, but it's okay to crank up your bass or your lows a little higher than the rest of the frequencies. I mean, unless you're spending 10 racks on the sound system, hey, you really don't have much to worry about. Now you may ask, how loud is too loud?
Alright, go.
Some may say construction sites, some may say gunshots, some may say a person talking louder than they should. But the truth is, only you know how loud is too loud. Because A, your ears will be screaming at you. B, you'll be left with a slight ringing or muffle in your ears. Or C, you'll just tell yourself like, hey, this is a little bit too loud. And let's be real here. Nobody actually carries around a decibel meter everywhere they go so they can measure how loud this is and how loud that is. Everything you see on the internet will give you close estimates of how loud something is, but really, I mean, it's all going to depend on how close you are to that sound and the actual environment of itself. I'll say this though, the internet will give you a pretty good list of sounds that you should stay away from, unless you want hearing loss. But in general, you listening to music on your phone with headphones on is generally at a decibel level of 115, 120, somewhere around that range, and that is not good. So be really cautious. I mean, at least make the effort to turn the volume down like maybe 2 or 3 notches or even more, please, or else we'll all be deaf within the next 10 years. If your hearing gets worse and worse, then things are going to start to sound a little bit muffled. And this means that the hair cells that take care of the higher frequencies are just dying out, because either you're aging or you just didn't take care of your hearing when you were younger. So just keep that in mind, which is going to sound something like this. And it's not going to sound the greatest because everything is just going to sound a little more muffled, and you definitely don't want that at any time, at any point of your life. Hopefully many of you don't have to deal with any of these symptoms at all currently, because if you do, then that's a shame. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. It was definitely something different. You know, I've done a million presentations, and I thought, hey, I've never actually showed a video to the class, so here I am. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you when the time comes.